Konnichiwa! Genki desu ka? Welcome to another episode of Go Mega Otaku Gamer Alpha. I'm your Mega Otaku Gamer. I am Ken-chan. Today we're going to look at the smallest video game system, the Game Boy Micro. Now, before I go into the Game Boy Micro, really heavily in depth, I'd like to kind of pat myself on the back. I think I came up with the idea for the Game Boy Micro. Yeah, I think back in the days before Facebook, there were, of course, forums everywhere. This was at a time when Sony was getting ready to unveil their PSP, and they were dominating the market, and Nintendo, of course, was re-gearing their whole mechanism and their whole company and retooling everything to get back in and become more competitive in the modern world. They had announced the Nintendo DS, and much to everyone's shock and surprise, Reggie Fils-Aimé at their E3 conference in 2005 whips out this little thing, the Game Boy Micro. I had been on the forums several times making comments about what Nintendo should be doing, and one of the ideas that I had was that they should make a Game Boy that fits on a keychain. Wouldn't that be neat if they had a really small Game Boy that somebody could carry around in their pocket on a keychain? I really did. Okay. Let's get serious now. While I did say that, I can hardly take credit for creating the Game Boy Micro. That's just ridiculous. Other people had the idea, and I'm sure Nintendo had the idea themselves. I'm sure that's not me that came up with that. But I just thought it was really neat that I had thought of that, and I thought it would be a neat thing, and then all of a sudden I see it not that much longer after. And if you want to get down and technical, this thing really is small enough, and there's a couple of little holes here. Let's see if I can get you set up to see this here. There's a hole there that comes around to the side here. Okay, you could slide a string through that, or maybe even like a key ring. Now, the Game Boy Micro, of course, was part of the Game Boy line, and it's actually a Game Boy Advance that has been shrunk down. It has the same processor as the Game Boy Advance, but it doesn't share all the circuitry that the Game Boy Advance has for playing the previous Game Boy games. So it's not backwards compatible with the other Game Boy games. It's, of course, manufactured by Nintendo. It's part of the Game Boy line. It is a handheld game console from the 6th generation era. It was released in Japan on September 13th, North America September 19th, Australia November 3rd, the European Union on November 4th, all in the year 2005. It was discontinued in 2008. That's the rumor. They need a citation for that. They sold 2.42 million units of just this. Okay, just this little thing. 2.4 million. They were limited edition. The CPU was a 32-bit ARM7 TDMI at 16.78 megahertz. Predecessor was the Game Boy Advance SP. Of course, that's concurrent. It was during the lifespan of the Game Boy Advance that it came. It came kind of at the tail end. Game Boy Mikuru. Okay, that's my crappy Japanese. Anyhow, let's take a look at the system itself. Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of a look at this here. And this is very small, so it's hard to see. You have, let's start with the top here, I guess. You have the screen, of course. Your control switch, your rocker switch, directional pad, A and B buttons. This skull cover here, these covers are actually detachable. I'm not going to pull this one off right now, but they're detachable, and Nintendo made several different interchangeable covers, tops for this system. This is the limited edition NES version. Well, it's supposed to look like an NES for whatever reason. Here's the back of it. The cartridge, of course, the game packs go in here. And you can see, just by comparison, right here is the system and a game pack. It's pretty well, pretty small, really. This game pack is large compared to the system. Fits in there like that. Alright, we have the bumper switches here. Okay, left and right. Down here we have select button, start button. Over here we have a volume control, a rocker switch for volume control. I showed you the holes here where you can actually slide a string or a band of some sort, or maybe even a key-ring through there. You have your on-off switch here. On this side you have really nothing. And of course, I don't know if I mentioned this, this is the charger bay. You plug it in to charge it up. This operates on a lithium battery, ion lithium battery. Whoops. Very basic, very sparse, very simple, very small. You can smuggle this into just about any place. You can take this to church. You can take this to school, and nobody would ever really notice that you have it. Smaller than a cell phone, really. So let's look at what the games look like on this tiny little screen, and you'll discover that they actually look quite good. The graphics are quite crisp on this tiny little screen. So let's look at some games. Okay, so here we are. Our first game we're going to look at is Doom 2. So as you see, this does make a decent transition. This does a decent job of this. The guy back behind there. Come on, dude. There we go. Tekken Advance. A little bit of, yeah. Need for Speed. Racing games on the Game Boy like this usually look and feel kind of crappy. But this one does an adequate job. One of the things I forgot to point out is this does have a headphone jack. You can plug in your headphones, unlike the Game Boy Advance SP that neglected to put one of those in there. You had to use a proprietary set of headphones, but this does have a headphone jack in it. One of my favorite games for the Game Boy line, of course, is Iridian 3D. This has graphics that are stunning. It's a 3D track shooter type thing. Ooh, I bit that one. And of course, as always, I'm not playing this to play it. I'm playing it to show what this looks like on this little screen, and this does, as you can see, an adequate job, a more than adequate job of being a portable device that delivers the Game Boy experience. Oh, well, not, of course, you know, the Game Boy's portable, but what I mean is a more portable device. You can take this anywhere, really. This will fit in your pocket along with your keys and other things as well. Ooh, yeah. A little bit of the old classic Metroid for you here. The sound on this is very low, even with the thing cranked all the way up. In the long run, of course, the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy line was kind of replaced by the DS line, although Nintendo never actually said that. Their official statement, basically, their official statements that they were making about it, was that they were going to keep both lines going. Now, of course, you haven't seen a new Game Boy in years. The DS and the 3DS have basically been the handhelds that Nintendo have been producing. But don't rule out a future Game Boy. They could bring that back somehow, maybe in a phone. You never know. That could be their ace card that they have down the road, should they decide to get into the smartphone market. Could you imagine a Game Boy phone? I could. Anyway, it's small. It's more portable than any other portable that ever was portable. It's the Game Boy Micro.